Ever wonder why, despite so much public support for some issues, it ends up going nowhere in Washington? How do lawmakers keep winning elections when failing to do much of anything? ABC 7's Adam Cellini explains why two former Florida congressmen believe closed primaries in states like Florida are partially to blame.
A bid for open primaries was a hot topic among the Constitution Revision Commission earlier this year, but it was voted down unanimously by committee members.
And raise the minimum wage.
Former Congressman Patrick Murphy knows how frustrating a stalemate in the Capitol can be.
It's not necessarily that the people are bad people or that they're dumb or whatever. There are structural forces ripping us apart.
After losing a Senate race to Marco Rubio, Murphy and another former congressman, David Jolly, have teamed up to share why they think gridlock rules Washington. That's the title of their town hall series, touring around college campuses.
Trying to not say teach, but just educate people on the realities of what's going on would be the best way to make a difference in our democracy right now.
The other half of the tour's title is how we can solve the crisis. And one solution, they say, is changing Florida's closed primary system. A closed primary only accepts votes from registered party members. But voter turnout in primaries is low, about 15% nationally, according to Murphy. He also says 90% of the country's congressional districts are predetermined, meaning one party has a major advantage over the other. The problem?
You have 15% of the country voting in primaries that are determining 90% of your members of Congress.
So instead of appealing to a wide range of voters, most politicians answer instead to a much smaller group, making organizations like the NRA even more influential.
The incentive is actually to be more extreme than it is to solve a problem.
An open primary would allow Democrats to vote for Republican candidates and vice versa. Peter Imhoff used to vote as an independent in Georgia's Republican primaries.
I was living in such a red area that unless you were a registered Republican, if you were in a closed system, if you weren't a registered Republican, you really didn't get a say in who was elected. But in an open system, I as an independent could cast my ballot in a Republican primary and say, yes, this is who I want as my county commissioner, this is who I want as my state rep, this is who I want as my state senator.
Imhoff registered as a Democrat when he moved to Florida so he wouldn't be excluded from primaries. Still, non-party affiliates make up 1/3 of registered voters in Sarasota and Manatee counties.
Here in Florida, many people who are actively involved but maybe don't want to put their name next to an R or a D come to a vote in the primary and then realize that they can't vote.
Manatee County Supervisor of Elections and former Republican State Senator Mike Bennett warns an open primary can create new problems.
The biggest problem with open primaries that people have is the fact that as a Republican, I'm going to have Democrats trying to pick who's going to represent my side.
Also, human nature can and has taken over, with voters trying to swing elections towards weaker candidates by voting in the opposite party's primary. Florida's League of Women Voters tried to take up the issue in a study after the 2016 general election. Their results were inconclusive. There is no perfect system for improving voter turnout.
The biggest challenge is to try to find a way that everybody has an option, and when you've got close to 1/3 of the voters right now who are not registered with either party, we've got about 1/3 of our people who are left out of that issue.
And Alan, out of the 20 states that currently have open primaries for both parties, 76% boast a better turnout rate than Florida. In the newsroom, Adam Cellini, ABC 7, your Suncoast News.